Question of the day. What's a game that you kind of knew exactly how you were going to feel about it before you even played the game? All right, what does that mean? Well, what's a game that you kind of saw maybe a preview for, a review for, exactly, maybe you read the rules online, and you kind of already had a preconceived notion of how you're going to feel about a game before it even hit the table. And when you got there and played the game, you were right. It's exactly what you expected, good or bad. Let me know in the comments below what that is, because that is our question today. I'm Brian Drake here on the Dice Tower. We're taking a look today at a game all about brewing beer in the Middle Ages. Look at that art, stained glass windows. Fun fact, beer was more safe to drink at most times in the Middle Ages and the Industrial Revolution than the water, which is why it was so important, plus nutritious with all the yeast apparently in there, I've read and learned somewhere. Anyway, you're not here for a history lesson. You're here to take a look at Heaven and Ale from Eggertspiele Games. Let's take a look at how this game plays. Notice this roundness to it. Makes sense. What it is, what it does, and if you should pick this one up right now. So, Heaven and Ale, here we go. Look at this nice cathedral looking lighting and everything. What's inside of here? Let's take a look right now. Here's what comes inside of it. Now let's straighten this up just a little bit. So first of all, there's a main board here that everyone shares access to. This board is where all of the action tiles are going to be. Basically the tiles in which you get your different resources. Now you'll notice there are 5 different types of resources over here. You have water, grain, hops, yeast and wood, as well as a brewmaster that goes down here. Now the scoring is interesting. I'll go ahead and talk about scoring quickly. The game score is really one way. There are a couple other things to bump up your score, but really one main way is you've got these 5 resources that are going to start here. They're going to start on their individual colors. Your job is to get everything up here to a numbered slot, because what happens is your final score is your lowest tracked resource. So I'll show you what that looks like in a minute. Your lowest resource multiplied by whatever level your brewmaster's at. So if your brewmaster's here, it's your lowest resource times 3. Here's times 4, here's times 5, times 6 here. So you're going to try to move up all of these goods pretty together so you can get these goods higher to where your lowest one is actually, you may have a couple that are your lowest, but there may be a 4 instead of a 3. That's a big jump if you're multiplying times 4. Anyway, one of the other things you can do is the exchange rate at the end. So you'll notice the exchange rates are listed here. Wherever your brewmaster is, which section he's in, is what you can exchange your goods for. What that means is at the end of the game, you might have one resource that's at an 11, but you might have one that's at a 2. If you're here in the 3 to 1, you could go 1, 2, 3 to move this up 1. 1, 2, 3 to move it up again to where you're no longer, your lowest one isn't 2 anymore. It's now 4, which again, a lot of points increase for just doing that. These spots over here, this is where you put your scoring tokens. You can only score one type of thing one time. You'll notice the 2 different colors here. Tiles placed on this side generate money. Tiles placed on this side generate a bump in those goods. Once you surround these little farm area looking spaces, these pastures, depending on the number of the spaces around it, like they actually have printed yield numbers on them, depending on that number, you will get a certain number of benefit. It might move your brewmaster up 6 spaces, 3 spaces, 1 space, or no spaces, but it might also activate the tiles sitting around your sheds here. Now let's talk about actually what the main board looks like and kind of what you're going to be doing with your actual turn. There are level 1 tiles and level 2 tiles. They don't really change a whole lot as far as the numbers. They just, depending on your player count, you might get into the level 2s, you might not. These are things like woods, grain, hops, the yeast, and then water are the 5 goods on here. They will all just, randomly, you'll put one level 1 tile on each of the resource spaces out here. I'm not going to put one on everything because we're just going to be dealing with a short area here, but I'll put one on for most of these here. So, well, actually I might have enough in my hand to do all of them, whatever. But we put these all out. And then as you go around the board, if you land on one of these, you pay the cost. Now, if you're putting it on the left side of your board, the light side of the board, the cost is double the face value. If you're putting on the right side of the board, it's just face value. So for instance, if you wanted to buy this wood to generate your wood resource higher when you trigger it, it would be $10, even though the printed value is 5 if you put it on this side. If If you put it on this side of the board, the cost would only be 5. And again, that goes the same for all of them, 3, 5, whatever it is. You also have these spots in which monks go. The monks are different because what they do is when they are triggered, they'll just activate every single thing around them. So a monk will go on each of these spaces with a monk. There are 4 of them each round. There are also barrel spaces, which involve these barrel scoring tokens. And basically the first person to get these things gets a certain amount of points. They're things based on having several sheds of the same number, like we talked about here. There are things like have this side completely filled, have this side completely filled, have all your monks scored, have all your goods scored, have all of your resources up here, have your brewmaster up here. All different things you can get points for. If you're the first one there, you get 4 points. If you're the second one there, you only get 2 points. And then obviously if no one else gets it, no one else gets it. But on your turn, you're going to take your worker. You're going to move up the track. You can go literally as far as you want, but there are only as many rounds as there are sections here. So in a 2-player game, there's only 3 rounds. That will increase as you increase the player count. So let's just say I move here. My turn will be to spend the either $3 or $6 to put this on my board. So if I put it here, now that space will generate $3 when I activate it. If I put it here, it would generate 3 movements for water. Just that simple. Now, these other spaces like the monk, you would do the same thing. You pay face value. This one's 4 if you put it on the right side, 8 if you put it on the left. When it's activated though, it's going to trigger every single thing around it. So if you put it here, well then all of your tiles around it are going to trigger when you do the scoring for this. Let's talk about scoring because that's really the last kind of space, and it's really the most important because it will trip you up quite easily if you're not careful. So this space here, this one is you take your little purple marker, and there's only 1 there per round typically until the end of the game, depending on the player count. You put this on here, you can never score that again. That means you're calling out a number. So if you said 5, well then every single number 5 out here would score. So you might have some over here that generate money. You might have some over here that generate movements on these resources. You call out 5, you call out 4, whatever number you call out, all of those of that number will score. And by score, we mean they'll either give you the money or the resource movement. This one is you choose one of your monks. All of the tiles around those monks, because you could have 2 of the same monk, by the way, will trigger. This one is you call out a resource type. So you say, okay, I want all of my hops to trigger. So if you have hops over here, they'll generate money. If you have hops over here, it'll move your hops up. Then you have these A, B, C spaces. Basically, you can redo one of these A, B, or C actions depending on where you are. That's how the game is played. Once you come around, you wait here. You can take a bonus if you want to. The first person gets to take the bonus in a 2-player game. In the 2nd-player game, 3rd-player game, or 4th-player game, the last person here, if first player is not taken, they will have to take it, which means they will not get one of these bonuses. You also, if you score 2 of these things, notice they're kind of in a tray. So you have these 2 monks together, these 2 goods together, these 2 goods together, and these 2 things together. If you were to score 2 of those, basically you have purple discs on these 2 things, you can then play one of your privilege cards, and these are different cards that give you things like extra $12. There are things that give you, if you take the amount of purple discs you have out here and move your lowest resource up that many discs, just different little privileges that increase as you go in the game. So again, your goal is to get all of your goods up here higher on the board somewhere to where your brewmaster can multiply by the lowest one after you've done your exchange rate. And once that's happened, your final score is your final score of that multiplication plus any cards that you have. And then I believe it's plus any money you have. It's 1 for every $10. So currently our score would be 4 times 2, 8 points for that, and then you get any points that you have for the barrels that you have. Now again, the exchange rate, we could go 1, 2, 3 and move this up. So now your points are 4 times 3. So it went from 8 to 12. Big jump right there. So that's how the game's played. Let's come back up, talk about what we think about it, and go from there. So that's Heaven and Ale. Now, Carla has redone these shelves in her order of her favorite games, right? So you'll notice that this one's pretty high, actually. We really enjoyed this game, actually, quite a lot. It's a really, really fun game. So all the things that you can do in the game that are basically pretty simple. You can do basically one of 3 things. You can either get resources, you can either score, or you can get the barrels. And, you know, monks, basically the same thing as resources. It's a lot of deep strategy though, because you have to think in your head, okay, wait a minute. If I call my numbers now and I'm not going to be able to do the numbers again later, then I might be messing myself up. What if I really need some money now? What's a quick stopgap, short-term way to get money? And one of the best ways to get money I've found is by working on those stables, farms, whatever you call those, building the sheds, right? But there's a lot of detail and there's a lot of strategy involved in this game. So I really like how basically simple it is. You're moving around the track. You can go as far as you want, or you can stop short if you want. But there's a lot of depth to it and where you stop when you choose to score. If you choose to score the next round out, maybe hold out and hope that you get the barrels before anybody else does to get those extra 4 victory points at the end of the game. A lot of deep strategy in this. So let's talk about some things that we don't necessarily like that are okay or whatever, right? One is the art on the inside of the game itself. It's just okay, right? Once you get the tiles on the board on your actual player mat, it takes it away from that art that you have of looking like a farm to looking more like 504, to where it's this big tile with, you know, a blue tile. It's just a big blue tile with a number on it, with the symbol of what it is. Same for green. It's just a green hops background. It just kind of takes away from the art at the bottom of the board because it's so big. It doesn't have just a little picture on there. Again, these are minor quibbles because the art fits the theme in the sense that it's made about monks making beer in the Middle Ages. So again, that kind of simple life purposely looks like what you would see in some of the art from the area, Gregorian style art and things like that. But that's just my only quibble with the game. I really enjoy how this plays. I like the idea of your choices. Well, I could really move far and get this tile that I need right now, but I might be skipping up these options to score. I might just kind of slow roll it and take every single space that comes to me. That's also a good strategy. I love the options there. I really like the strategy of the idea of, you know, well, I can choose where I put these on the board first of all. Do I want to put them on the left side and pay more for them but actually move my resources up, or do I want to pay less and get money out of them? So it lets you build your engine in two ways. I really enjoy the idea of building my engine both on the money side and on the point side, and then hoping you can call for those to be scored, whether it be the resource one or one of the monks, so that you maximize both. So when you do finally call green, you're getting a ton of money for green and also moving up hops quite a bit, right? Or when you call for this monk, hopefully you've got your monks spaced out in such a way that you're getting just enough of everything. And so that's what I really like about it, is the fact that you're building two different engines, one for points, one for money. I really like the scoring mechanism. Normally I'm not a huge fan of your lowest of all of the things is what your score is multiplied out. But this one it works because obviously you need to build up all 5 of these resources fairly equally to where you can get a good score at the end of the game. I also really like the exchange rate idea, to where you could be stuck at the end of the game and get 0 points if you're not careful. But if you have, let's say, your water at a 10 and your yeast only at a 2, well, you can move back that yeast. Maybe if you're at the 3-to-1, you can go 9, 8, 7 up to 6, 5, 4 up to 3. Well, now you just had assuming you're in the 4-point area, that's an 8-point swing that you just took because of the exchange rate. So I really like that. I think that's a cool idea of allowing you to manipulate your really high goods so it doesn't actually punish you for building up one really high. It actually still benefits you to have one that's really high that you can kind of draw from for the exchange rate. So I really like Heaven and Ale. I really think you should pick this one up if you're a Euro fan, especially. The engine building is solid. The fact that you're building 2 different engines and timing it just perfectly so that you can take advantage of both of those engines. So go check out Heaven and Ale. It's a really fun game. We really enjoyed it. Carla and I both enjoy this game. It's quite fun. It's fast. It plays pretty quick, especially if you play with people who know how to play it already. But we just have had a blast with this one over and over and over playing this game. So that's it for this time. I'm Brian Drake here on the Dice Tower. Make sure to check out our videos at on the Dice Tower here. But follow me on Twitter and Instagram at The Latest Retro. And until next time, we'll see you. But also don't forget, we're doing a new interview series with designers, publishers, all the people, kind of the who's who in the industry. We just did an interview with Jamie Stegmaier, which you can check out in the link below with the rest of our videos here on the Dice Tower. Until next time, I'll see you.
Thanks so much for watching the Dice Tower videos. Find more great videos and reviews, as well as our top-rated audio podcast at Dicetower.com. You can also find other great shows at DicetowerNetwork.com. I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching the Dice Tower. The Dice Tower